another show. Happy New Year to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see, our friends Craig and Stacy Schroeder joining us from Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. Got a big show lined up today besides Craig and Stacy. Going to have James Vandenberg talk about the Hawkeyes football team, and then also Jess Settles, Big Ten analyst, former Iowa Hawkeye basketball playing great, and then David Eickholt, Hawkeye Insider, will join us as well. But Craig and Stacy, it is 2022, appropriately enough for Flash. Yes, his favorite number. Happy New Year to both of you. Thanks for joining us as always. And Stacy, we got to get right to it. You got some big events upcoming, starting with?
Our big event coming up will be the University of Iowa Dance Marathon. That will be held February 4th. And our good friends, the Schaefers, Brad and Darcy and Tegan, they will be ending the show Saturday night. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Craig, what else we got?
That is one dance marathon out of a dozen. So there is several other colleges, high schools, and even some grade school elementaries that will be doing some dance marathons that will make some appearances and be able to get to talk to the kids about making a difference and that everybody matters. And so that's all exciting, and we're already starting to prepare hopefully for some more bourbon in 2022. And also the baseball event, even though it's in June with the high schools, the Fight with Flash Crosstown Classic, a lot of preparation has to go into that, and so that's already going to be starting here this month as well for us.
And the online auction with the bourbons, all that upcoming, so for 2022. So stay tuned each week, and we'll give you an update with Fight with Flash, and again, Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. Craig, Stacy, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments. Welcome to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see, James Vandenberg joining me, the former Hawkeye quarterback with RBC Wealth Management nowadays, handling the financial world. But James, thanks again for joining us. Happy New Year to you and your family. Hope you had a great Christmas like the rest of the viewers and I did. But tough bowl game. Hawkeyes lose to Kentucky 2017. I started off the air with you, and I'm going to start on the air with you the same way as you're smiling. A lot of people on social media, a lot of the fans were frustrated. Hawks had a 4th and 1 or 4th and less than 1 and didn't go for it, punted it, played percentage football. Wan'Dale Robinson goes over the top, big gain down to the 1 yard line or 1 foot line. They punch it in, and then Petrus makes the ill-advised throw at the end of the game. I'm going to let you kind of take us through that whole sequence as a former QB1 at Iowa, and now you're watching the game. What did you see? What do you think? And what are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, with that actual situation, obviously now knowing how it would play out, you go for it. But at the time, I don't think it's like some easy one-way decision. You should go for it or punt it. And obviously, we don't expect them to go 80, 90 yards when they get the ball, especially considering the second half. They really hadn't done anything. So it's just one of those deals. I mean, they made the plays they had to make down the stretch, and we didn't make the plays we had to down the stretch. They kind of controlled the first half. We controlled the second half. And ultimately, it came down to a couple plays, which most games, there's that whole one play doesn't do it. There's that cliche, but it usually comes down to like 5 or 6 plays. Mm-hmm. And they made those plays. Wan'Dale Robinson was a big part of it. I guess I'm glad he's at Kentucky and not Nebraska, but yeah, just a tough loss. It's a tough loss. Errant throw at the end was just a miss. Just threw it over the back's head. The back's open. We're almost in field goal range, but that happens. If you go back and redo it, we'd probably try QB sneaking it, but I didn't. I automatically assumed we were punting in that situation with how the second half was going, and then ultimately they took it all the way down the field.
Yeah, again, to your point, knowing what we know now, both defenses were tired, and that's what happened in Iowa's case over the top. And we'll talk to James Morris next week, your teammate, that the quarterback of the defense, or as he calls it, you're the middle linebacker of the offense, James. But it will be interesting to hear his perspective on that, hearing your perspective now. So let's move forward. We can get into the game-by-game, play-by-play analysis. As you mentioned, there's 5 or 6 plays here, inevitably, that will determine a game. So I've got to get to the tough part here, which I don't want to get personal with anybody. You know, social media did a horrible job of that, or I guess a good job in a bad way of savaging. It has
ever since it was invented, Dave.
Bingo. And I applaud you for staying off it and for the unfair beating you took, and all your teammates say the same thing over time. And Spencer Petrus.
I didn't even know I took a beating. You're telling me I took a beating?
Just pretend you don't know. It's good that you don't know. I don't want to share. But so just put it to you this way. What Spencer Petras got the other day was crazy ridiculous. Sure, we can talk about different schemes and different changes that need or we want to have made. But going after somebody personally, again, as you can relate to, I just think is lowbrow.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately at the end of the day, like I'll hold somebody completely accountable for being a bad person or a drinking ticket or doing something wrong with. But it's like you throw an interception, you miss a tackle, you fumble the ball. It's like we're playing a game against other very highly athletic athletes. Butchered that, but I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Most of the people that in my history that I know make the most comments were the ones that know the absolute least. So, I mean, I encourage Spencer's mom to not get on there because you just go crazy. But that's how our world is, and you get to live in that limelight, and so it comes with the territory. People get too much praise and too much criticism, but that is what it is.
Well
yeah,
stated.
the off. I mean, I don't know if you're going to go into that or not, but
Yeah, yes, I do. Please, yes, please.
I think it. I mean, obviously, the quarterback situation I would feel is just a complete open competition. I even heard the announcers bring up the young guy, Labus,
Yes.
who I've heard good things about, but I thought it was weird. They went out of their way to basically say he would be in the mix next year. So I don't know what that means. I've kind of said ever since this 2 quarterback battle, I think it's hard to see Petras and Padilla stay. I don't know how the transfer portal works. I don't believe in it, but I think both those guys are probably good enough to play Division I football somewhere. And I guess I hope we keep all 3 of them is my hope, but that's going to be hard, I think.
Okay, so let's get into the schemes of Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz. I presume Kirk Ferentz will keep his son, even though Gary Barta is Brian Ferentz's boss, as the hierarchy says. Brian Ferentz stay? Does he make some changes in the offense? I mean, where do you see this going beyond players? How about coaching or decision-making, please?
Yeah, I'm a huge Brian Ferentz fan. I don't necessarily think this is an X's and an O's thing. That's the camp I'm in. Now, other people take the other side of that coin, and that's fine. But I think we can probably just close our eyes and wake up at the end of next year with an O-line that basically is going to return everybody but Linderbaum, who's a stud. But, I mean, you get a year growth on basically the entire O-line. People do not realize how big of a deal that is. I mean, I've told you a ton. Like, Sheriff got me sacked a lot. Blythe got me sacked a lot. I mean, these guys are complete studs, but when you're young, you're young. And that's from a strength standpoint. That's from a situation standpoint. I'm not blaming the O-line, but the O-line is core to our offense. I mean, that's just a fact. Everybody knows that. And we were young this year. And that's okay because the next 1, 2, 3 years, as those guys gain experience, that should be exciting. I don't think there's some magic pill we can take offensively.
And I agree with you. And the Williams boys did well. LaShawn and Gavin did well with Tyler Goodson going into the NFL draft and not playing in the game. A wide receiver without Keegan Johnson. I thought Arlen Bruce still played well. You had Sam Laporta, if he comes back, played well. You've got Lachey who can play well at tight end. So you're right. There's some great pieces. And we'll get more into the defense and offensive schemes and changes potentially with we'll get James Morris's take next week. But James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, thank you so much for your takes all year long during the season. We'll catch up with you one more time around the Super Bowl because we know there's going to be some Hawkeyes involved as it has been in years past. So I obviously want your takeaway going into the Super Bowl and after the Super Bowl. So thank you, my friend. Happy New Year to you and your family, and I'll catch up with you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Dave.
You're very welcome. For James Vandenberg, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more. Jess Settles, Big Ten analyst, former Hawkeye basketball playing great. Back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
In farming, everybody knows relationships drive the industry. And with Merschman Seeds, you've got a friend in the field. Hi, this is Joe Merschman. We're the friend that delivers with extraordinary speed. We're the friend that shares knowledge and innovation. We're the friend that cares about your yields and profits. And we just happen to have the most advanced seed technology in the industry. When you choose the best seed, you also get the best people. Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, Service it and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. You can see him right there. He's Jess Settles, former Hawkeye basketball playing great, as he's pointing to us, former Mr. Iowa basketball. This guy, I got to tell you, viewers, has the best stories. And I get Fran McCaffrey talking when I interviewed him a month and a half or so ago in his office, Jess, and that Julia Roberts story still comes up when he was recruiting you at Notre Dame. And gosh, we could fill this whole time with you on stories off the court, but we'll try to keep it on and keep it clean. But I'm telling you, Kenyon Murray's told me Jess Settles stories, James Moses, if you don't tell the best stories, you're involved in the best stories. So Happy New Year, my friend, and how you doing?
Happy New Year, Dave. Merry Christmas to everybody. Always a pleasure to be on and speak to my people in Southeast Iowa and where I grew up and where I got into mischief and where I competed and learned how to live, and just so many family members and friends down there. And it's always great to be on with you. You know that.
Yeah, I do indeed. And that's nice of you to say. From radio to TV, you and I go back years, and of course our Southeast Iowa connection. But now, Jess, we got to be careful. We're statewide on 4 different television stations. So we're, besides your Big Ten network, we're expanding you all over. But the other important introduction I wanted to make, that Jess is proudly, besides being a Big Ten basketball analyst on the Big Ten network, Jess is a farmer, and he's still back, the Iowa connection. So it's always great talking to you, and thank you for the kind words. So, Jess, let's get right to it right now. Jess, you got a big game you're going to be calling on Sunday on the Big Ten Network, Ohio State hosting Northwestern. But let's deal with things from last night. Iowa with a big 80-75 victory over Maryland. I'm going to say 2 words to you, and then I'm just going to let you roll. Keegan Murray.
Yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal year he had last year, running up and down with Luka and with Joe Wieskamp and the rest of the guys. The ultimate role player, the ultimate complementary player, just thrived off of the double teams those other guys faced. And then, you come into this year, and this is the one thing I'm always the most fascinated by coming into a new year. How will good players respond when they become the alpha, when they become the main guy, when they're the number one guy on the scouting report, when they're going to face the best defensive player and the best schemes? How will they respond? And a lot of guys struggle with that. It's just not in their DNA. They're used to playing with good guys around them. They can thrive in that environment. But when those other guys are gone, do you rise up and become a good player, or do you become a superstar? And Keegan Murray is obviously become a superstar. I'm shocked at how good he is.
Wow.
I saw 15 and 10, some 20 and 12 nights, some 25 and 9 nights. I didn't see the defense, the shooting, the 30, 35, 40 point type of explosions. The way he plays at both ends of the court, the way he leads his team. He's so far ahead of schedule. You got to remember, Dave, and you know this, and most of your viewers probably don't. This is a guy who had one mid-major offer out of high school. One. And I believe it was Western Illinois. So you got to tip your hat to those guys for seeing what no one else did. And then he had to go through prep school. Obviously, his brother Chris the same way. And Keegan Murray is right now a first-team All-American. And if he continues to play at this pace, has a chance to be the player of the year. That's shocking for me to say.
I was just going to say, I'll agree with you this early. I mean, I was just truly going to say it is shocking this early, how well it's going. 3 times already Big Ten Player of the Week, and well on his way again this week. If he has any game like he did last night when he plays Wisconsin on Thursday, and again, the viewers will have already seen that game when they go to Wisconsin, Madison and play. And I just think that what you said is so encapsulating how, we heard at the end of last year he may be a draft pick, 23rd round or 23rd pick in the first round, late in the first round. Now we're hearing lottery pick. All the national pundits after last night, Jess, are hopping on board with what you said about that. I knew this, you knew this, Jeff Horner's talked about this. We knew the kid could shoot, but not like this. And he even kind of copped to that last night saying, I'll always take my shot. But with you saying as shocked as you are, knowing what you know, that really puts it into context. So let's move on from Keegan and talk about some of his teammates, how this pairs in with the Hawkeyes. And then I want your take on the rest of the Big Ten, please, Jess.
Well, I love the way that Joe Toussaint played last night. The way he pushes the basketball, he seems like the perfect point guard for this system to just keep that speed up to keep his foot on the gas pedal. He's extremely unselfish. He makes Keegan a lot better. Probably the X factor for me, and we throw that around too much, is Rabracha. There's just not much size in there again for Iowa, and they're going to play against so many big teams. So he's got to continue to play well. But as far as the rest of the league goes, I mean, it's as tough as it always is. Wisconsin, I mean, Johnny Davis right now is the best player in the Big Ten. So this is going to be one of those old school player of the year type of matchups between Keegan and Johnny coming up that everybody's going to want to tune into, because Johnny Davis just wrecked Purdue on the road. I think he had 37 last night.
Yep.
And Dave, I think he had 30 against that great Houston defense early in the Maui Invitational.
Yep.
So this kid is a serious problem. Obviously, the size of Purdue, it's tough when you have that kind of size. They get a little bit mismatched sometimes, where they get their bigs switched on to guards, and they struggle with that. But still a top 10 team. Michigan State, you know how they'll ram it down your throat. Tom Izzo now, still after all these years, one of the best in the country, and with Coach Krzyzewski and Roy Williams on their way out. Roy Williams retired. Coach K, this is his last year. He's going to be the elite coach in the country. Just on and on. I called a Rutgers game the other night. Steve Eickholt, his teams defend as well as anybody. They rebound. Just about every team, even Northwestern's playing pretty well so far earlier in the season. Every night is a battle. We lost a lot of great players from last year, but it looks like this sophomore class is pretty special and has risen up for the occasion so far.
Yeah, and Jess, who'd have thought we'd be this far into the conversation and just bringing up Michigan and Juwan Howard, who've shown that they're normal and human, and Ohio State, as we talked about, had a big victory coming back after the holiday break. But some of the usual suspects, and now I'm glad you mentioned Rutgers, Northwestern, and again, viewers, be sure to tune in on Sunday, Big Ten Network this Sunday and January 9th, and Jess will be in Ohio State and in Columbus, calling the Northwestern Ohio State game. But Jess, in the last minute I have with you or so here, give me your takeaway. Who's left standing at the end in the Big Ten tournament? Who do you? And I hate to hold your feet to the fire, but I know it's crazy early, only 3 games into the Big Ten season. But who do you got?
You know what? I really today I like Ohio State.
Okay.
EJ Liddell is probably a first-team All-American. I mean, there are about 5 guys in the Big Ten right now who are second, first-team All-Americans, but the way Arns can shoot the 3-point shot, he's the ultimate weapon. Key inside is the power player. EJ Liddell, obviously, he's so versatile. They've already taken down Duke at home in that Big Ten ACC Challenge. So I'm leaning Ohio State right now, but I know that as long as Tom Izzo is on the sideline in East Lansing, most of these titles go through him. When you beat Michigan State, that's the most rewarding win for any coach or player, regardless of what they say publicly. Privately, that's what they'll tell you. And then Michigan does have a very talented team, but they're very young. So they have a lot of work to do. And don't sleep on Purdue, especially in a tournament setting like that, where they can just pound you over and over again. Not the boldest predictions by me, Dave, but it's still too early for an analyst to make bold predictions, buddy.
Well, exactly right. I held your feet to the fire, but you're coming back soon anyway, so I'm going to rotate between you and Jeff Horner and our usual suspects from last year when you joined us regularly. Where do you think, in 20 seconds here, do you think the Hawks make the tourney again way too early, and then we'll revisit this question with you next time? How do the Hawks sit towards the end of the season, do you think?
That's a good question. I think defensively, if Keegan Murray stays healthy, and all of them stay healthy, because there's just very little margin for error. Especially, you saw against Iowa State and a couple other teams there where his ankle was blown out, and they're just not the same team. But I think defensively, they're quick enough and good enough in this modern era to make the tournament. They're going to score against anybody. I'm leaning yes at this point, but obviously a ton of work to do and very, very thin margin for error in this league for this Iowa team.
Jess, right out of the box, starting a new year off, you slam dunk. I was going to say you hit a home run, but let's use a basketball analogy. Slam dunk. Former Iowa Hawkeye basketball playing great, now Big Ten analyst for the Big Ten Network, but also, besides covering basketball, Jess Settles is a farmer, Iowa native, Iowa grown all the way through and through, former Mr. Iowa basketball. Good friend of this program, has been for years, and I love having you on, Jess, and we'll have you back on soon and follow up on some of these predictions. I held your feet to the fire early in the year. We'll see how this plays out, but have a great call on Sunday in Columbus, and we'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Dave. And a shout out to Jeff Horner. He's doing really well. Thanks, Dave.
He really is. You're welcome, and thank you, Jess. For Jess Settles, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back to close out the show with Hawkeye Insider David Eickholt with more Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with Dave O'Hara. My buddy David Eickholt joining us, HawkeyeInsider.com. David, first of all, I want to mention our condolences to the family of Christine Grant, Iowa Hawkeye women's athletics legend, passed away over the weekend, going into the new year at 85 years old. Also to Caitlin Clark, congratulations. Big Carver Hawkeye Arena record scoring 44 points in their big victory. And then, of course, Spencer Lee is going to sit out this year having surgery, so he'll be coming back next year, it looks like. So all that being said, David, my goodness sakes, there's so much going on. Hawkeye men got big games, had a big game we just talked with Jess Settles about, one against Maryland, but then play Wisconsin and Indiana upcoming. But let's talk football with you. You were in Orlando. I'm going to step out of the way and let you just tee it up. Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Dave, good to be talking to you again. Yeah, it's one thing to go from 85 degrees to 1 degree. I forgot how terrible that is. But, I think it was the game itself was sort of a microcosm of the entire season, right? Iowa's, special teams didn't really show up as well as you would think. Iowa's defense, I thought, did an outstanding job in the second half, but Iowa's defense is, for as great as it is, Dave, they really seem to struggle with elite receivers. When you think about guys like David Bell, Wan'Dale Robinson. I think Iowa fans knew when he was at Nebraska that he was going to be a great player, but maybe he was sort of misutilized at Nebraska. I think Mark Stoops solved that equation.
And then Chris Rodriguez was unreal.
Yeah, he was. He was a tremendous back for Kentucky as well. But, at the end of the day, Dave, Iowa's offense just wasn't able to get it done. I think they showed some really good things in the second half, but it just isn't going to be enough based on the output that we saw, especially in that first half, Dave. That's not going to win you a game against a pretty good SEC team in Kentucky.
I want to go into a different direction than James Vandenberg and I went into in the first segment with you about Brian Ferentz, the offense. You unearthed a nugget online that I want you to share with the viewers and then moving forward into the future with the Hawkeye offense, please.
Yeah, so I think, Dave, when you look at this Iowa offense, first of all, I think you have to be encouraged with the rushing that you saw against Kentucky. I know some of their star players were out for Kentucky's defense, but if you look over the course of the last month, what Iowa did, except Michigan, of course, Iowa's really switched from the outside zone. They switched more to the inside zone. I think we saw, it's no coincidence that Tyler Goodson's numbers started going back up. Gavin Williams started to emerge himself. LaShawn Williams, I think he's going to be a factor next year as well. And Gavin proved to me that he could be a potential number one guy next year with what he brings to the table. And also keep an eye on Caleb Johnson, the freshman who's going to be enrolling in a couple weeks here. He's going to be a guy, 6'2", about 225 pounds. I think Tyler Barnes, Iowa football recruiting director, said he has a 12-pack, not a 6-pack. That's just how strong he is. So I think, there's some encouraging signs there. We'll see what happens at quarterback. I think if they can, utilize the play action more, try to give receivers more one-on-one opportunities down the field, and utilize the bootleg more. I think those are three very simple things that if Iowa does that, it can take them from where they were this year and at least help, take that next step forward going into the offseason and into next season.
Now, I'll say this to you as well. Keegan Johnson had a non-COVID illness, so he'll be back next year. Arlen Bruce looked great as a freshman. We hope Sam Laporta comes back. Tyler Linderbaum probably gone. But again, Google Brian Ferentz coaching seminar. You had mentioned it's a 2-hour seminar, how he really breaks down the Hawkeye offense. So we've got some good things moving forward. Yes, a lot of people weren't happy on social media after the game, but it's 10-4, David.
Yeah, and I think, Dave, you got to keep in mind, you look at all of Iowa's young talent. I expect Gavin Williams to take the next step next year. Like you said, Sam Laporta is a fourth-year guy. Luke Lachey is Iowa's number 2 tight end. I think he's going to be a huge factor as well. Then you have Arlen Bruce, you have Keegan Johnson. And don't forget, Brody Brecht was a pretty highly touted prospect as well. He just needs to continue to get some snaps. So Iowa has young pieces. They continue to develop them, use more end arounds, utilize the speed, throw in some different wrinkles. And I'm not saying it's going to be a world-changing thing, world-changing scheme change, Dave, but it's something that can really help push that Iowa offense forward, because you got to give Kirk a lot of credit to get 10 wins out of this team.
You better believe it. And no matter whomever is at quarterback next year, whether it be Lavis or Padilla or Petrus, we know the offensive line is going to be solid again, minus Tyler Linderbaum. So, David, great stuff from you as always. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it, Dave.
He is David Eickholt, Hawkeye Insider. I'm Dave O'Hara for Hawkeye. Thanks to David Eickholt, to James Vandenberg, and to Jess Settles, and to you, the viewers, for tuning in each week. Thank you so much. Don't forget, Chris Murray will join us next week, and then we're going to rerun the Keegan Murray interview from earlier this summer in a couple of weeks. So get ready for all of that. So, as always, for the aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. That's all for me. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guest and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.